rocked up to Tour of Oman, and you're just watching everyone, like Oman, obviously we don't have chefs and there's not the full setup that we've got at Grand Tours with the teams. So you're watching every rider walk into this buffet at Tour of Oman carrying a set of portable scales, and you're just like, yeah, the sport's changed.
Yeah, there's a good market for portable scales now. That's definitely those have definitely gone up in sales. Joined today by someone that, if you didn't know him a month ago, you definitely know him now. And if you didn't know him a month ago, you haven't watched any bike races in the mountains, because he's always there at the end of them. Start with his most recent result, which is the stage win in the Giro d'Italia. He's been at the front of basically every climbing race for the last 3 or 4 years that he's shown up to. He's riding now for Jaco Aurora. Chris Harper, Harps, welcome to Train Like a Monk.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
All right. So first question is, where are you at the moment?
At the moment, I'm home in Andorra. So I've been back here. I've been back on and off for the past couple of weeks, but back for a bit of a good stint now. Well, hopefully back for a good stint.
Yep. You say hopefully, is that because you're hoping you don't get a call up to a big race in France next week?
Nah, that's off the cards. But I think I'm going to the start to do a event with Giant, which will be pretty cool. But just a last minute trip.
Yeah, a trip to Lille. It's a beautiful part of the world there in Lille.
Yeah, I was looking the other day on Garmin about where to ride there, and the only thing I could find was the stage 1 of the tour. So I think that's going to be my loop on Sunday.
Yeah, okay. Well, either that, you can ride to Roubaix Velodrome and do a few laps of that.
Well, we're doing that Saturday, so I think there's only so many times I can go around there.
Yeah, it's not a very good velodrome either. A pretty special one, but the surface isn't too great. We were teed up to try and get on to record straight after the Giro, but I ended up in China. You ended up on holidays in Greece. So obviously a nicer place to be than sitting down doing a podcast. What's the training been like since then? What are you training for at the moment?
At the moment, my first race back will be San Sebastian.
Yep.
And then I've pretty much just got like a good build to the Vuelta now. So I'll only race. Plan at the moment is just to race San Sebastian before the Vuelta, but then you never know if someone sick or injured, if you get called into something else. But focus is San Sebastian, Vuelta, and then see where we're at after that.
Yep. So for you this year, was the Giro, or like you sat down at the team camp when the programs are laid out in either November or December, was the plan always to be going 100% for the Giro?
Yeah, definitely. Particularly, the big focus for the first part of the year was Giro.
Yeah.
And then we sort of had the idea of doing the Vuelta as well. But I normally like to have a rough idea, but I think the first half of the year you can sort of lock in and then see where you're at once you come out of that first big objective.
And was there ever any talk actually when you were still flying at the end of the Giro of getting the call up for the tour, or never made it onto the cards?
Oh, I don't know. The tour is always a tricky one, just with everyone wants to go, and it's obviously such a big race for the team. They're also very selective about who they want to take. So I think at one stage maybe I was on a bit of a long list for it, but just I think all the guys who had sort of penciled in going to the tour, they've all come off altitude camps and all that. And Eddie was moving really well at Dauphiné, and Benno's going good at Swiss, Mauro and all that. So I think all the guys that are meant to be there are in good shape. So I don't think anything's ever going to change when guys rock up and they're ready to go.
Yeah, I guess that's a good thing for the team as well when you don't have to make those last minute changes, especially if you've had the feet up on the beach in Greece for a week as well. So looking at the Giro, I guess we'll get to the stage itself. Also, just want to point to the fact we're not going to go into the stage too much, just because if anyone wants to listen to that, go listen to the Domestiques podcast. I listened to the chat you had with Marco and the gang there. And yeah, you did a good job of talking through the actual stage. So if you want the play-by-play, go to that. And that's got a bit more of your background as well, which was super interesting to listen to. But in terms of the actual lead up, I guess, to the Giro, first question is, was the focus to be stage hunting or for GC?
First focus was GC, and then once that didn't work out, we flipped the plan and just focused on stages in the last week.
Yep. And did you have that stage picked out before the race? Obviously, it was going to be a massive GC one. Is it something that you'd prepped before in terms of like anything specific towards doing that kind of effort for over an hour? Well, just under an hour was it for you, I think, on Fenestra, but around that hour mark, it's pretty hard to do efforts like that in training. Was it something you even bothered to try and replicate in training?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you'd replicate it in the sense of doing such a long, hard hour.
Yeah.
But the focus, I'd done a altitude camp in Sierra Nevada, and I mean, Sierra, you ride 25, 30K home up a climb every day.
Yeah.
So I guess in a way it's similar. You're climbing home over an hour every day. And definitely in that period, I did a lot of work. Maybe not as high a power as what Fenestra was, but a lot of that sort of uncomfortable riding for a long time up a climb. So I had done quite a bit of long, hard efforts, and it was always a focus. I think it's probably something that suits me quite well as a rider as well, is when the climbs are so long and hard, it becomes, well, unless you're Pogacar and Jonas, it becomes less explosive and everyone's sort of, a bit more of a race of attrition more than anything.
And then,
so I think that suits me. And yeah, how I trained it was probably pretty similar to how I raced it on the day.
Yeah. And then the question I had on that, which you touched on a little bit in the other podcast, was how you were able to, in the stage itself, just to get your head in the game. So for those who don't remember, the day before, I think it was the day directly before you were in the break as well, did a similar thing. Maybe 2 hours from the finish, just clearly had good legs, tried to ride away from everyone. I think you did actually ride away from everyone, got caught, ended up going backwards through the rest of the break that day, not getting a result. Was it easy to get your head, I guess, into the game of I'm going to go do this again and I'm actually going to make it stick this time? Or did it just happen in the moment and there wasn't much thinking going into it?
I was just thinking I need to get to Rome and I may as well do it as quick as possible.
You're going to be suffering wherever you are, so you may as well be winning.
Yeah,
nice. No,
I mean, more serious answer. I don't know. I think I'd sort of taken the pressure away from a result because the day before didn't go how I'd hoped, and I sort of lost a little bit of the belief that I could actually race for a result. And I don't know whether that just helped me on the day, just being like, I'm out here in the break, I'm here, so I may as well give it a crack. But I'm not sure whether I've got the legs to do it. But just the way it played out, then all of a sudden I realised I actually had pretty good legs, and just went for it.
Yeah, no, it was super cool to watch, especially for me. Having raced against you a long time ago now, I was actually just thinking then on gravel in Adelaide. Actually, we were in break together one day in the little Tour Down Under COVID edition there. Would have been one of the last times I've actually raced against you and had any chance of sticking with you. And then even before then, one of the results of New Palmares when I was looking up for this episode was the Oceania Championships. It was even further ago, where you at that point were just sort of coming through and starting to tear people's legs off on climbs in Australia, but at that time still by no means at the level that you're at now. And it's not as if you were particularly young then and had a lot of development physiologically from just a growing or natural development. So I guess the question is, what have you actually changed in that period to be able to make the leaps you've had? And I'm sure it's not just one thing, but what do you think have been the biggest things for you to go from being someone that in Australia is one of the stronger climbers, but at the same time not torching everyone every climb we go on, to all of a sudden, not all of a sudden by any means, but to working your way consistently to now winning a tour stage on one of the hardest Grand Tour stages that we've seen in recent years? What have been those things?
Yeah, I guess when I first started, like even looking back on it, maybe, yeah, I was less, I wouldn't say I was less consistent. I was still training, but maybe at times it wasn't the right training for me. So I'd say that's probably a big thing, is just the consistent, day after day doing the right training, and yeah, also sticking to the plan, I guess. It's easy when you're an amateur to feel good on a five
Mm.
hour ride and be like, I'll go do 6 hours today. Whereas I think once you've done it for enough years, you've got that outlook of like, yeah, okay, I might feel good today, but tomorrow I've got a really hard 4 hour session with lots of efforts. I don't need to come home with the tank empty today. I need to save save some for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think that's big. I've just gotten a bit better with that, and I'm sure I can still continue to improve. But yeah, I'd say that's a big one. And then I think the other big one, which is probably just, I mean, it's a big focus in the sport at the moment, and everyone's talking about it on podcasts, is just the importance of nutrition. I think the sport's taken a massive leap with nutrition. Um, in the well, probably since I joined Visma, they were sort of I think the first team to come out with this whole personalized food coach sort of thing, I think they call it. But previously, the year before I turned professional, I started working with David Dunn, who I still work with. And he founded a company with another guy who used to be the nutritionist at Jayco in its previous names, called Hexus.
Yeah.
And I think now you're just seeing pretty much every team, they either have their own platform for nutrition or they're using a platform that's trusted. So I
Yeah.
think that's been a big leap.
My team last year was using Exus Q36.5. We were on that working with, we need to give him a shout out. What was the nutritionist's name? I forget, but they helped found it from Jayco. He was working with
David and Sam
Sam. Yeah.
MP.
Sam MP. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one. Sorry. I just had a mental blank. But yeah,
that's all right.
those yeah, that app, and there's a few other ones that have popped up as well. Yeah, it's pretty incredible now when you think about, definitely when I'm sure you were riding in Oz, and even yeah, when 5, 6 years ago now, only the weirdos were weighing their food at the buffets
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff, and
yeah,
now only the weirdos aren't weighing their food. Like if you see someone that's
yeah,
not
yeah,
weighing their
yeah,
food, you just think, oh, they don't give a shit, or they've racked it, or like they've checked
yeah.
out for the season or something. And it's not even weighing
Yeah,
it. I think a lot of people don't realize it's not weighing it for weight loss or being a weight weenie, or like because you need to be a GC rider or lose the off-season weight. It's just so you eat enough. Like that's most of it is,
yeah,
is
yeah,
genuinely just
yeah,
weighing
yeah,
your rice, not because it's like going to be
yeah.
bad if you eat too much, just to make sure that you actually have the right amount of carbs in your meals.
Yeah, yeah, massively. I think I said that to David this year. I rocked up to Tour of Oman, and you're just watching everyone. Like Oman, obviously, we don't have chefs, and there's not the full setup that we've got at Grand Tours with the teams. So you're watching every rider walk into this buffet at Tour of Oman carrying a set of portable scales, and you're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, the sport's changed.
Yeah, there's a good market for portable scales now. That's definitely
Yeah,
those are definitely gone up in sales. The last one just
yeah,
before, and just touching on that before we get to the usual questions, that you in both things that helped you progress. Yeah, the time with Visma, or as it was then Yumbo, Lotto Yumbo. I think even when you started, was mentioned, like, and well, they were a big part, I guess, in the first part of your question there, and not overdoing it when you feel good and having that structure and sticking to it. Because I know they were one of the early teams that was seen from outsiders as over controlling in terms of that they did monitor everything and really try and prescribe everything tailored to each rider rather than just, okay, this is what we do because we've always done it. Instead, it was, really specific to each rider. Do you feel that you're happy with the way that you were able to start on that team and then take those learnings onto a team like Jayco, who now it's clear they've stepped up a lot recently, but aren't known for in the past having been a team that had that level of support that a Jumbo does, and always have been known for?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't think at that time, I don't think you could have gone to a better team than Jumbo as your first professional team. Just the amount of stuff I learned about nutrition and training from all the people on the team was pretty massive. And also, just other riders in general and their experiences over the years. Yeah, it's definitely was a pretty lucky team to land up on as my first professional team.
Yeah. And do you get to be in touch with the riders still on the team, and are they giving you any new stuff they're doing, or are they too tight-lipped?
Well, Yatesy went there this year, so his first season at Visma,
Yeah.
and yeah, I did a lot of racing with him the past couple of years. But I think going back to that whole consistency thing, I think they're been good for a long time, and it's not like they're changing anything massively. Of course, there's always going to be new things in the sport about monitoring training. I think the latest one is someone told me this at the Giro. I don't know if it's right, so don't quote me on it. But apparently there's some new heart rate strap which is actually measuring your breathing rate and all that.
Yeah.
And apparently now they're thinking this is
Got
this is going to be the future of.
right here.
You've got it.
Yeah.
There you go. You're more high tech than me.
No, it's because I had the heart issues last year. Give these guys a shout out. Not because I'm sponsored at all. It costs an absolute bomb to get it, but I'm sure there's other ones that do it. But these guys, Fourth Frontiers, it's called. It's an ECG, so it's pretty bulky as well. So you can actually see your heart rhythm as well. But that it does breath rate and everything else, just because it's just a bit of a more robust one. I didn't know actually that people were using similar things for breath rate and that kind of stuff, but I just spoke to a few riders that had heart issues as well in the past, and they've been using it. So I'll drop a link.
Nice.
I'll drop a link to those guys for anyone that's had heart issues on the bike and needed that kind of thing. But no, that's interesting mentioning that they're looking into that. It is funny that, I think anything that's going to make a big difference just gets spoken about and shared around so quickly. So you hear about whispers of all these tiny things that might be a marginal gain or might make you a tiny bit better. But I feel like I'm interested if you feel the same, whenever there's something that is going to actually improve you by 5 or 10%, like massive amounts, you hear about it straight away. So like nutrition, for example, everyone's just on it straight away.
Yeah, 100%. I think the smaller things are normally within the team, and it's pretty minor. Like maybe the manufacturer brought out a bike which is 300 grams lighter, and all of a sudden this aero bike that was already super fast is now lighter, and they're on the limit, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, normally the big stuff makes its way to cycling news pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we'll get into the usual run of questions now around your training. So first things first, what's your favourite training session?
Well, favourite would probably be, I have one favourite session, which is I'll sort of roll down the hill for half an hour, and then I'll do sort of 3 hours, click the lap button for 3 hours, and it'll just be, with my coach, we call it chain tight. So I'm just on the pedals for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I guess depending on who you talk to, it's a zone 2, LT1, whatever. I enjoy doing that. It's definitely, I think there's a bit of a misconception about this zone 2 thing being, you're sitting on the bike chatting with your buddies. And in my experience, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoy doing
What
that.
kind of watts are we talking when you're doing that ride? Like when you're going well, say, and moving pretty well, what are you trying to hold for the 3 hours?
3 hours, anywhere from 320 to 330
Yeah.
would be around the mark. If it changes, maybe it's super hot and I only do 310 or closer to 300. But yeah, if I'm on a good day and I'm able to get enough food and enough drink in, then yeah, I think between 320 and 330 is sort of normal.
Yeah, and I think that's probably where it falls away a bit, like from as you said, the rolling along and chatting to your mates, because most people, they're like, even if you're looking at the same zone or same percentage of their thresholds, they're gonna, like, most people listening to this at home are gonna probably be riding the number that starts with a one or maybe a low 200s. So it
Yeah,
might be a
yeah,
bit easier, even just physiologically. Like, obviously, you're at the same work rate percentage wise, but I think a lot of people don't understand that. Yeah, especially the diesel engines like you, where that's going to be your honey hole kind of effort, and then even the stories you hear of Poggy and that kind of stuff. It is like just producing that amount of power for that amount of time. You're working pretty hard. Like, there's a lot of oxygen that has to come in and
yeah,
out of
yeah.
your lungs. It's not really easy to roll along and talk. And then the other thing is, as soon as you're in a wheel, you can't do that kind of power output, so you can't actually ride with anyone else when you're
No,
doing it.
no, it's pretty unsocial.
Yeah,
And I mean, also another thing, it's expensive as well. Like riding
yeah,
at 325 watts for 3 hours, you've got to be on top of your fueling because
definitely.
you're burning quite a lot, which again just comes back to I think the sport's gotten so much better at fueling.
Yeah,
I don't know about
you,
when you were coming through, but I
yeah,
heard so
definitely.
many stories about 6 hours on avocado and
Yeah, I
all this
was
stuff, and now it's
watching. I saw this
now
interview
it's a bit
pop up
different.
the other day with Jan Ulrich's old coach, and he was saying that Jan was ready for the tour when he could do his 6 hour ride with just an apple. That's when they knew he was ready to go to the tour. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's crazy though, because even that
It's a
session,
bit
just three
different.
hours at that, you wouldn't have been able to do with even the way we were fueling when we were just coming into the sport. I think, like, you just need
Yeah,
so much fuel to produce that. But it makes sense then, because when you're stacking up those sessions throughout a season and able to actually get through them because you've fueled right, that's the reason we're getting these performance gains.
yeah, 100%. And I think the whole reason guys are going faster up climbs at the end of stages, and everyone's saying it can't be can't be right that they're going as quick as you know these guys from the past
Yeah, yeah,
with some dodgy things about their name, and it's like, wow, when you listen to what they were doing,
yeah, exactly.
they probably
Yeah,
had nothing in the tank.
yeah, just genuinely. All right, least favorite session.
Anything to do with a sprint, I
Okay.
can't sprint out of sight
Do you get
uh,
many
on a
sprints put on
dark
the
night, I
training
think is the
program?
saying.
Yeah,
Uh, Not a heap. I did at Yumbo. We had a few sprint sessions which I didn't enjoy, especially one. I mean, it's not really. I mean, for some guys it would be a sprint, maybe the more explosive guys, but for me it was more just like. I mean, I imagine it would have looked terrible to watch me do it, but like 3 by 30 second sprints every hour in like a 4 hour endurance ride.
yeah,
And I hated that. Like, it's a minute and a half of work, and it was the worst thing about the week for me.
yeah. Okay, it's funny. Yeah, it just changes so much depending on rider type. Like, we've had almost that exact session by multiple guests say that's their favorite one, and that they couldn't think of much worse than going out and just doing a long steady effort. But yeah, that just
Yeah.
shows you that each person's different. Favorite training loop.
If I had to pick in Andorra, I've got a nice loop that, I sort of ride down into Spain, do a lap, come back into Lascaux, which is pretty close to the border, and then I ride to France, back up the other side into Andorra, which is about a 6.5, 7 hour day. So I
Yeah,
like
okay.
that.
Yeah,
But back in Adelaide, I love doing out to the coast, like going through Port Elliot, Victor, and then coming back down Glenelg and then back up the freeway home.
Yeah, okay.
So they're probably my favourites.
Yeah, and where are you in Adelaide for those listening when you're doing that loop?
Up in the Adelaide Hills,
Yeah.
like Aldgate near Stirling, I guess is a bit more well known.
Yeah, so I guess where you're already starting where most people ride to from Adelaide, like up in the nice spot in the hills there. So you gotta go somewhere else to make a loop of it. But it's interesting that because a lot of that is flatter roads than where you would be close to home. But I guess easy to stay on the pedals once you're down there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Solid but nice.
Yep. When you got efforts, do you do them at the start or at the end of the ride, or do you space them out?
Actually, sometimes when I've got efforts, it'll be in training peaks in a certain hour.
Okay.
But then I'll have other days where it'll just be include within the ride these. But I'm a big believer in like doing. I mean, we've trained it specifically, but I believe that like doing fatigue resistance sort of work is very beneficial. So if you're doing a 5-hour ride and you got a hard effort at the end, I think there's a lot of benefit in that.
Yeah, and that checks out because it seems like most of your best riding has come when everyone else is cooked and you were able to keep dieseling along. So clearly works. Is there any thing that you're like using to make sure, like aside from fueling, obviously, is there any mental tactics you're using to make sure you can still smash yourself at the end of a training ride?
Nah, not really. I mean, if I'm really struggling, there's a couple good playlists I've got in the back pocket that'll get me going. But other than that, nothing really.
Yeah. When you've got the training plan in there, are you someone that sticks to it religiously, or do you change it up based on how you're feeling?
Nah, I stick to it pretty religiously.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And is that...
Yeah, if it's 6, it has to be 6.
Okay. And that's been the same across, obviously, at Yumbo, that was encouraged, and you didn't loosen off at all when you came across to Jaco?
No, not really. I mean, I do sometimes screw it up. Like I'll go adventurous and come up with a new loop, and I'll add a bit of time on there.
Yeah.
But only at certain times of the year as well.
Yeah,
like if I'm in a pretty focused, if I'm in Sierra, I know how long everything takes. It's pretty rare that I overcook it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think even last year, I went and reconned a bit of the tour, and I just had in my head the loop I wanted to do, and Josh was like, "Yep, no worries. Like, go see him, but no more than 7 hours on the bike." And then my last day was 8.5, and just just a rough experience. Then you're just like riding home, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to explain this.
Yeah. That 8.5.
It's just happened.
A day in the pedals.
But I've got a system in place now, Josh. I think we agreed 3 times a year I'm allowed to do 8 hours. So.
Surely, actually, I was going to say he must give you a leash and an offie, but it kind of defeats the purpose of having an offie if you're going out doing 8-hour rides.
Yeah.
He's probably happy that you went to Greece without the bike then, so you couldn't get sucked into doing any of that. When it's raining or might be in Andorra snowing, are you someone that goes out and just gets it done in the weather, or do you jump on the trainer?
A lot on the trainer, actually, especially this year. When I first came back to Andorra, I did quite a bit on the trainer.
Yep.
Mainly because I did one day, I think I did 3.5 hours, and it was bucketing rain the whole time, and I think it was 0 degrees, and I was meant to do efforts, but I couldn't even change gears, so I just rode home and stood in the shower until I got warm, and then jumped on the ergo 2 hours later to do the efforts, and I was like, I should have just done ergo.
Yeah.
I'm already on here.
Yeah, that'll teach you there. That's a mental strength to get through that one. Are you someone that ever trains? Do you train ever with a group, or are you almost always solo?
Most of the time solo.
Yeah.
Occasionally I'll, especially if we get a good time of the year and there's a few guys on the team in Andorra, we'll at least link up for a bit of the ride or have a coffee somewhere, and then everyone will sort of go off and do their own things. But I think the way the sport's gone, it's been harder and harder everyone's so specific with what they're doing. It's a bit harder.
Yeah, and in Andorra in general, there's not going to be, like, if you looked at the peloton, there's probably like less than 5% that would actually be able to train with you there. In terms of just like if you're looking at zones, no one's going to match up perfectly to even be able to ride like a zone 2 or a zone 3 together on the roads there, because you're just riding either up a hill or down a hill the whole time. So it is tricky to ride with people.
Yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, even 2 years ago, doing my Sierra camp for the tour, it's funny, like UAE are doing a team camp there, and every day you see like the first rider goes, and then 2 minutes later, the next rider. It's like they're doing a camp, but they're also spending a lot of time just sitting in their zone, getting ready, sort of thing.
yeah, yeah, and that's just the way it is now. And I've even seen it more around Nice here. Like you just rarely ever see groups training. Pretty much the only group I ever see is whoever Geraint Thomas is riding with, because he's the only one that seems to want to ride with others, and then everyone else is
Yeah.
riding by themselves, or maybe around here behind a motorbike to get ready for races, because everyone loves motor pacing. But that's about it.
Yeah, right.
But are you someone that does stops on a ride, or you no stops generally?
If I'm by myself, I don't really stop much. Um, but then when we go to a training camp, I love stopping at the cafe.
Yeah, okay.
Like if, I mean, for me, if I'm out solo, I'll just go to a cafe and down my coffee because I've got no one to chat to. So
Yeah,
it's a bit boring. Whereas when you're at a camp and you can chat with a few guys, it's a bit more fun.
yeah, and you got a lot of day to kill when you're at a training camp too. You don't want to get home,
Yeah, yeah.
sit in the hotel too long. Uh, Favorite training food? So it might be when you stop at a cafe, or just what you're chucking in your back pockets. What you go to on a training day?
If I stopped, uh, I'd say I'd say anything sweet really, like a cookie or some sort of a cake. Um, in the back pockets, I'm pretty boring actually. Like a lot of the time, I'll just take what we're using on the race.
Yeah.
Our sponsor makes these nougat bar
Ah,
thingies,
yeah.
which I don't know how they can be good for fueling because they just taste like eating a treat to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I get stuck into them.
Yeah, the new guys are the best. For their
Yeah,
only issue is when it's so hot, they do tend to get pretty sticky. But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's a bit of a
yeah.
mission to
Or
get them out of the wrapper.
if the directors have left them in the car too long and
Yeah.
the car's heated up and you just get this nougat and it's no good.
Yeah, no good. Do you ever do any low carb training, or did you in the past?
A little bit in the past, but in the last year, probably almost never.
Yeah.
We did a little bit with Visma, but um, very rare. And then, yeah, back working with David again, don't really do it.
Yeah. With Visma, was it more for changing body composition, like to lose weight, or was it for the metabolic side of things, or did you not get told what it was? You just went out and did it.
I think it was more for like the metabolic adaptation than losing weight.
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of, you probably know better than me, but I think there's a little bit of science in there about it, sort of
Yeah.
doing something to the mitochondria.
Yeah, that's the idea behind it, or was the idea behind it. But what the recent stuff has come out, and this is probably why David's not prescribing it, and why most nutritionists and coaches aren't prescribing it, is you're actually going to get way more effect size from just riding. If you're doing 7 hour rides, the 7 hour ride itself is going to be way bigger for the mitochondrial adaptations, even the metabolic adaptations for using fats over carbs. Just riding for a long
Okay.
time is going to actually have a way
Yeah.
greater effect size than the fuel choice that you use. So if
Yeah.
if you only can ever do 2 hour rides in a week, then it might make sense to sometimes do that. But as soon as you're doing a 5 hour ride, that strain on your body in itself, like even
Yeah.
over a 4 or 5 hour ride, is enough to create those adaptations, or have a way higher signaling pathway for those adaptations to
Yeah.
take place. So that's sort of
Okay.
the more modern thinking. You still see people using the low carb stuff because they swear by it and say it makes them
Yeah.
feel good. But for the most part, that's why like it's disappeared. Yet we're not seeing everyone suddenly not fat adapted and not able to make use of that energy system, just because
Yeah.
people are actually able to ride longer then, because you're doing these rides where you're able to sit at that high work rate for much longer, and that's causing that adaptation.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember as well at Visma that the other problem they had with it was I think they did it and then they'd say like even 2 days later a lot of the guys didn't feel good and then I think when they were testing the guys' lactate, like the lactate was actually through the roof,
Yeah.
uh, even just from doing the low carb couple days before.
Yeah, that's the other like the main reason that we're feeling so much. Not the main reason. There's a lot of reasons, but you just recover so much better. I'm sure you've noticed, like
Yeah,
especially when you're on a training camp and like not having to even think about fueling and the nutrition's around. Like it's
yeah,
crazy when you're in that good environment and everything's the fuel's coming easily. You can just like back up days on days on days without feeling that cooked.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, any cross training in your program? Do you jump in the gym? Do you do any running? Any of that kind of stuff?
I like doing stuff in the gym. So at the moment, I'm doing a bit of gym work again, and I do quite a lot of gym work. When I get back in Australia, I always do a really good couple months there, and then just becomes a bit trickier once we get into the season. But now that I've got another good build, I'll definitely do 2 to 3 sessions a week in the gym.
Yeah.
And then I really like running as well, but I think with me, it always, or I guess anyone, it sort of hits a point where you're doing so much on the bike, including running, and yeah, I mean, just to not get yourself injured is hits a point where maybe it's not the best idea.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And when you're in Andorra, have you got into the skiing at all?
No, I've never learnt how to ski. I
Yeah,
need
okay.
a, well, I guess if I ever do a winter in Andorra, then maybe it's on the cards. But also missing out on summer in Australia.
Yeah, I was going to
It's
say
just it's
Adelaide's a hell
just
of a
a
lot better
hard
from
pill to
November.
swallow.
Yeah, from November to January, Adelaide is a much better place to be, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll get into the rapid fire round before we finish off. So this is just quick fire. Would you rather one option or the other one? So first off, aero or lightweight?
Lightweight.
Really? Gee, I think you're one of the first ones to say that. We've had nearly aero for everyone. I did see that you were. Which bike were you using when you won Finestra, actually?
I was using the TCR, which I don't really use it much.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I just changed a couple of days before
yeah,
I started using the TCR and just didn't change back. And
yeah. The
yeah,
the lightweight's still a thing. Disc or rim brake?
yeah, disc,
Tubeless or clincher tire?
tubeless.
Saddlebag or handlebar bag?
Can I say both?
You run the handlebar bag.
Yeah, handlebar bag,
Yeah,
saddlebag.
well,
I got a lot of snacks.
yeah. I was
I
going to
don't
say
like
that.
having them in my back pocket.
Yeah,
Especially you can't put the nougat in the back pocket. It's got to be
yeah.
in the
Then
bar bag.
then definitely melts with the body heat as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Socks over or under leg warmers?
under
Gloves or no gloves?
for racing. You mean?
Yeah, racing or training. Do you change it up based on what it is?
I only wear gloves in a race.
Yeah. Okay.
I definitely never wear them in training. I hate them.
Yeah. Okay. But you wear them every race?
Since I cut up my hands in the
Yeah.
Dauphiné last year,
Yeah. Okay.
I've sort of realised that they might be important.
Yeah. I think that's every single person's process is not wearing them until they
Yeah,
completely cook their hands and then wearing them every race after that.
yeah.
Heat or altitude training?
Altitude.
Downsign sprints or KOM hunting?
Oh, KOM hunting.
Early morning or pro hours? What's your rollout time?
Pro hours.
Rico spin or when you got a easy day, do you prefer a Rico spin or day off the bike?
Day off.
Chamois cream or raw dogget?
Raw dogger.
Would you prefer to ride with a half wheeler or a wheel sucker?
Probably a half wheeler.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So you like getting in a half wheel contest? Squeaking disc brake or creaky bottom bracket, which would you prefer?
Probably a creaky bottom bracket.
Yeah, okay. I'd shocking squeaky disc brake today, and yeah, I think I would honestly prefer the creaky bottom bracket over that. Last one of these.
Yeah.
Would you prefer a complete hunger flat or to be severely dehydrated?
Uh, Poor, that's a tough one. Probably, probably hunger flat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's interesting as well in Andorra because you got a long way to get home if you're hunger flat. But what a ride uphill.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've done it a few times in Andorra. Got the dehydrate. They're almost the same, I reckon. The same sensation.
Yeah, neither are real fun. All right, we'll
Yeah.
finish up. Very last question. Best piece of advice that you've got for everyone listening?
Um, I'd probably just go back to consistency. Like, yeah, I think anything you do, if you sort of commit to the process and stick at it long enough, then you start to see see the benefit somewhere down the line. I
Yeah,
think everyone wants the quick 5%, 10%, but I think yeah, I think being consistent sort of pays off the most in the long run.
yeah. I think your career is a testament to it in that you didn't like. Now we see everyone. A kid just got signed at 16 years old. I think I just saw on cycling news yesterday. So everyone's coming
Yeah,
in so early, and you just think it's supposed to happen straight away. But yeah. When did you sign your first pro contract with Jumbo? How old were you then?
I would have been 25,
Yeah.
which I think, yeah, it's pretty rare to do that.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And then
yeah, like you said,
how
everyone's
old are
coming
you
out of
now?
juniors.
Yeah, yeah.
30, be
Yeah.
31 in November.
Yeah, so then that's just like a 5 year process from even signing a pro contract to then taking a big win in a grand tour. And
Yeah,
it's not out of nowhere that win either. It's just been consistently. I think yeah, I'm sure you've seen it in your numbers, but from watching from afar, just the steady progression each year clearly just shows that you've been quite consistent, managed to keep going, despite like even changing teams, changing race programs, whatever it is, and just apply that consistency, keep improving, even despite the rest of the competition improving so much in that time. So it's pretty cool to watch it
yeah,
happen. Pretty good advice for everyone as well that if you just stick at it, stay consistent with your plan, have good help as well, obviously, in terms of having a good coach, having nutritionists that you work with, that kind of stuff to help you make it happen. But clearly it's working for you. So looking forward to watching the rest of the season and beyond as well.
thank you very much. Thanks for the nice words.
Yeah, no, good, great to have you on. So yeah, everyone can chuck you a follow, keep an eye out for you at San Sebastian if you don't get a call up for something before then. And yeah, enjoy the next few weeks of training and cheers for coming on.
Will do. Thanks, mate. Good luck at Guangxi.
Yeah, cheers. I'll need all the luck over there.